On July 10, 2025, news broke that David Richmond Gergen, the veteran political advisor who shaped the messages of 4 U.S. presidents, had died at 83 from complications of Lewy body dementia at a retirement community in Lexington, Massachusetts. Tributes poured in from political leaders, journalists, and former colleagues who praised him as a balanced voice, a calm counselor, and a passionate believer in civic service. Former Vice President Al Gore called him a principled leader of unmatched character and kindness. A public memorial was announced for Harvard, following a private burial at Mount Auburn Cemetery. Gergen's death signaled the end of an era of insider leadership and raised reflection on a rare career that bridged both parties and spanned public service, media, and education. David Richmond Gergen was born on May 9, 1942, in Durham, North Carolina, the youngest of 4 children in an accomplished academic family. His father chaired Duke University's mathematics department, and from an early age, Gergen was steeped in scholarship and civic engagement. He attended Durham High School, where he edited the student newspaper, and then won entrance to Yale University. Graduating in 1963 with a degree in American Studies, he was managing editor of the Yale Daily News, alongside future leaders like Joe Lieberman. He then went to Harvard Law School, earning his law degree in 1967, marrying Anne Elizabeth in the same year. A stint in the U.S. Navy followed, where he served aboard repair ships in the Pacific. He later described that his role as a damage control officer, learning to control chaos, was an essential training ground for the pressures of the White House. In 1971, he entered the Nixon administration as a speechwriting assistant, working alongside Pat Buchanan, Ben Stein, and William Safire. 2 years later, he became director of speechwriting for Nixon, crafting messages that helped navigate Watergate and detente. His calm steadiness and sharp intellect earned him rapid trust. During Gerald Ford's presidency, Gergen became White House Communications Director in 1976, steering messaging through the post-Watergate recovery and the faltering economy. Under Ronald Reagan, beginning in 1981, he again led communications and helped shape Reagan's public image. Gergen penned one of the most memorable lines in modern presidential politics. "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" during a debate in 1980, a rhetorical moment credited with helping Reagan defeat Jimmy Carter. He understood that political power depends as much on perception as on policy. Despite his strong credentials among Republicans, Gergen took a rare bipartisan turn in 1993 by serving as counselor to President Bill Clinton and Secretary of State Warren Christopher for about a year. He often self-identified as a radical moderate, insisting that centrism was not compromise but principled leadership. His crossing of party lines reflected practical rootedness rather than ideological surrender, and helped solidify his reputation for integrity above tribal loyalty. After his years in government, Gergen shifted into media and academia. In 1978, he became managing editor of Public Opinion magazine, later serving as editor at U.S. News and World Report and writing columns for Parade magazine. He began appearing on television, joining the MacNeil-Lehrer NewsHour on PBS in the 1980s, and becoming a mainstay political analyst on CNN through the 2000s and beyond. Twice his election coverage team won Peabody Awards. His calm, informed style made him a trusted presence in a divided media environment. Meanwhile, in 1999, Gergen joined the faculty of Harvard Kennedy School. He became founding director of the Center for Public Leadership and professor of public service, a role he held until his retirement in 2023. There, he mentored emerging public leaders, shaping programs that brought together social entrepreneurs, veterans, and civic changemakers. He held firm to a belief in public service that transcended partisanship and inspired thousands of students. After his death, Harvard announced a summer fellowship in his name, signaling how deeply he impacted the institution. As an author, Gergen wrote 2 celebrated books. His 2000 memoir, Eyewitness to Power: The Essence of Leadership from Nixon to Clinton, offered insider portraits of presidents and lessons on leadership. In 2022, he published Hearts Touched with Fire: How Great Leaders Are Made, where he argued that leadership is forged in crises and grounded in character. In one key passage, he wrote, The very finest among them make the difficult calls that can ultimately alter the course of history. He offered transparency about political life, believing in diplomacy of communication as much as policy. Colleagues remember Gergen as affable yet thoughtful, principled yet practical. James Baker III called him the best conceptualizer in terms of communication strategy that we have. Harvard faculty and students described him as a generous mentor, an insightful listener, and a guide who stayed focused on bigger ideals. Despite the polarization of recent decades, Gergen maintained civility, a steady moral center, and faith in institutions. In private life, he and his wife Anne raised two children, son Christopher, a social entrepreneur and author, and daughter Catherine, a physician working for underserved populations in Boston. They also had 5 grandchildren. Though deeply engaged in national affairs, Gergen valued family intimacy, private friendships, and quiet intellectual life. He received 27 honorary degrees from universities across the country and served on numerous boards, including those at Yale, Duke, the Aspen Institute, and the Kennedy School itself. Gergen's death in mid-2025 marked not only the loss of a skilled advisor, but the fading of a model once more common in Washington, the elder statesman known more for wisdom than partisanship. He served 4 presidents of 2 parties, spanned eras of Watergate, Reagan optimism, Clinton centrism, and modern polarization. Through it all, he remained consistent, disciplined, earnest, curious, committed to institutional trust and service. What does he leave behind? A generation of leaders taught by his example, a media environment occasionally enriched by his tone of respect, a Harvard Center dedicated to leadership that values conflict, empathy, and courage. In environments where political discourse becomes shouty and transactional, Gergen believed in listening, craftsmanship of words, and the moral dimension of rhetoric. In the final assessment, David Gergen's life was not about ambition for its own sake. It was about stewardship. Words he wrote shaped campaigns, his mentorship shaped careers, his teaching shaped values. His death felt like the closing of a chapter in American public life, the era when leaders were defined by how they served, not just how loudly they spoke. As tributes and memorials arrive, they highlight the same qualities: kindness, judgment, decency, and quiet strength under pressure. And though he may have left this world, his belief remains teachable and timeless, that public leadership demands empathy, insight, courage, and above all, humility.